Hey, welcome to the Timeless Truth Podcast. I'm Chad Foss.
Jacob Rodriguez.
Ryan Cornell.
Richard Nalder.
Awesome. And today we're going to be really talking about something that's been always a thorn in our industry side. And we're going to talk a little bit about recruiting and hiring and onboarding today. So Jacob, I'm going to have you start it off because it sounds like you got a really good kind of recent, fresh experience, and we'll have you take off from there. All right, buddy?
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys, how do you coach, or within your companies, how do you handle a stylist or barber that's left and is calling back or reapplying and looking to get rehired again?
Man, that's a good question. For me, that's a pretty rare occurrence. What I do love about it, I mean, I guess it kind of like depends on how it ended, right? Did they burn the bridge? Did they, was there no follow through with the exit strategy? So I guess that would be my question I would ask you, Jacob.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I asked this because, if you've ever been to a summit, I feel like this is a talking point that gets covered about how there's a percentage of stylists that will leave our companies, will go check out to see if the grass is greener on the other side. That could be independent, right? Go get a booth rent, go work at a different salon down the street for a different commission rate or different reasons. And then they've often referenced like there's that small percentage that will kind of come back if the doors open. And I'm kind of facing that right now, and I'm like asking myself the question, like what questions should I be asking? I did ask my leadership team, my operations coordinator, and she acknowledged some things for me. And so, I just kind of, before I make my decision,
And some of the things you pointed on, like there's also career changes, life changes. There's a lot of reasons people shift gears, and I think we see all them, the family time. The grass is always greener for a different profession that someone gives you a door into, and then you're like, I didn't know this part of it. I didn't realize how well I had it. And I think we've already, that idea in life where it's like we do need to push beyond something sometime to get renewed focus on the stuff we weren't noticing before. And there's a little bit of that in this conversation too, I think, where it's like, you now have a person who has more awareness. And to Chad's point, how did they leave? How did they process it? And what are those timeless truth conversations that are like, tell me again what you're seeing, like what you're believing? Because I do think there's a lot of times people can come back to something more motivated, more. And I've seen it in coaches too, right? Like coaching can be tough. You can go, life has different phases. And people have come back coaching when it's like people who write music, right? Musicians. I have more music in me. They take a break and then they have more music in them. So like this idea too that's in there of maybe some of these questions are related to finding their heart, finding why, what's their new why.
Yeah, I think definitely having a conversation with them, like seeing what was the purpose of leaving and what have you done in between. And then also having that conversation, what are as a business owner, what's the non-negotiables, of bringing them back on, and then the pros and cons of bringing them on. What is it going to benefit the team having them there? Or is it not? There's a lot going on without knowing a lot of information about where the vision is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think where I'm at, great feedback, guys, for sure. Thank you, Brian, for that too. Like that was really helpful. And I think that the why talks to the heart, right? And I'm such a heart leader that there's a part of me that's like, hey, this is a great opportunity to practice grace, right? Like there's room for that in this situation, right? Like there was the bridge was not burned, so there is kind of an opportunity. So now it's just that like I said, I'm asking myself, okay, this is a great opportunity to practice grace. What does that look like? Have the questions, ask the hard questions, like, hey, what was it that you were seeking that you didn't find that you feel that were the place to come back to, right? And then identify some of the red flags that were there before, right? In this case, it was like she wanted to do the associate program, but didn't show up for her first two classes. So we like just let her know, hey, we're going to put pause on it. We told her, right? We're like, my time, your educator's time, it's not being respected. You can continue to be a stylist because she had experience, but she wanted to do a portion of the associate program, but we're not going to do the program. Hey, I understand, right? We kept moving on. I'd say the other red flag was that overflowed into sometimes her shifts. It's like, hey, an hour, 30 minutes before her shift, hey, life's happened. I can't come to work, right? And so it's like, okay. So I'm like, can I bear that? Because I often, as I'm talking to you guys, I've caught my telling my leadership in the past when you have those kind of troublesome employees, it's like choose your hard because no employee is perfect.
Mhm.
So what are you willing to tolerate in the imperfection of every individual? Because every individual is going to be different. So in this one, it's like, well, there's some inconsistencies in her showing up. Can I bear that? Does that
Yeah.
what does that do to our culture? What does that do to, and not, for me, I'm thinking like, well, that affects the client experience, right? Because now they're having to have their appointments rescheduled or canceled or rearranged. That puts the stress on my front desk because now they're having to call last minute at 30 minutes to an hour before, like, hey, your stylist isn't available, right? So then it's like, right, that's the scale. And I think identifying this right now is like, these are the scales that as leaders and owners in our companies, we're having to make these decisions on.
I love it. So what's coming up, like a timeless truth that's coming up for me that I had to swallow when I had, my first walkout as a salon owner, Jacob. And it's kind of a quote that, it might proceed to this, but I think it's going to help you with your gut and your heart is people don't leave companies, they leave leaders. People don't leave companies, they leave leaders. Right? And when I'm talking about your leadership, right, it wasn't that you were a bad leader, but did you hold them accountable to see their true version of themselves of like they don't like accountability, right? Or they don't like structure and processing because it might had nothing to do with your business model. It might have to do with like the leadership part of it. So
Yeah.
when you kind of like hear that and like the situations that come up, there's like to Richard's point, there's pros and cons. I think what you really got to ask is asking this person tougher questions now that they've been in your company and then left, right? So you got to ask like really tough questions and then follow your gut. Like, why didn't you show up? Why didn't you believe in our system? Why didn't you believe in the vision to begin with?
Yeah, I think like little hard pause on that, Chad, because I think that's a great clip right there, right? Because what we hope is people can take away those nuggets and actually put some application. And I think you should like say that again. And then if anyone else has any further hard questions to ask, I think this is the time for that. That those can be the nuggets that they take away from this segment.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, like how I would interview, have set up a couple different interviews. Like maybe you have an interview, one of your team leaders interview them, and it could be in the same setting, it could be separate times. And then your leadership, whoever interviews and talks with them, get back together, do the timeless truth right here, SWOT analysis, the pros and cons, like what's the benefits of this? Because we don't need to hire anybody. We need to hire somebody, right? So it's like it really trying to mold somebody or find somebody that's going to harness the branding and culture of the company and have belief in the vision of the salon company or the barbershop company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think again, just another hard question I would be asking is, a lot of people, it's really hard for people to change unless a big life event happened. So let me ask you, what has changed in your life? What perspective, what willingness, what coachability has changed from our initial relationship?
Yeah. I love that. Well, and so let me then add a new question to this because I think the transition is hiring experience professionals, right? They've been in the industry 3, 5, 10, 15 years. Or I've got 2 guys in my company that have been in the industry 30 years and they've been with me 5 and 4 years. So, but as coaches, like what do you guys see the pros and cons or the challenges or positive sides of hiring experienced versus hiring like straight out of school? And as many of us Summit Salons owners do, right? We do the associate program. Like what have you guys seen and what do you guys think about that?
To hire the person, train the skill, like is something I've heard.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely, somebody that has experience, they can fit in within my barbershop company. It's really what they want at the end of the day. Do they want a hobby, career, or a job? And I'm for the career. So every time I'm coaching them or sitting down with a one-on-one, I'm teaching on the career and not the job. I don't want somebody to show up not at 9 o'clock and go home at clock out at 5 kind of a deal. It's a lifestyle to me and it's an identity. It not only their job or whatever they're going into as their career, it's going to impact the community, the barbershop company, everything. It's a ripple effect outside of that.
Mm-hmm. So how do you go about interviewing that, Richard, and setting that up in a question to help you or help that candidate become aware of, are they in a career mindset? Are they in a job mindset? Are they in a hobby mindset?
I think having open-ended conversations, like what's their lifestyle? Where do they see themselves in the next 6 months, 3 months? What do they do outside of work? Kind of like a consultation for a haircut, right? Like first time visitor, like what do you do? What do you do for fun? Do you have kids? Do you have family? Trying to figure out who they are as a person. And then I think having having questions in that aspect, you can kind of start identifying where they're at, if they're more in a career or job or hobby.
I think for me, when I do interview questions, especially when I'm looking for career-minded people, I honestly just ask them, when's the last time you did something really hard? Or when's the last time you accomplished something that wasn't in your wheelhouse that really set you apart, that you're really, really proud of? Because doing hard things is, I think, in definition, what a career person is, right? Are you willing to do hard things? Because for a job, right, it's just you going into work, doing your job and going home, and that's fine. And there's no worse, better definition. A hobby, right, is just basically going to pay you like a hobby. But a career-minded people, it's really asking them, what's a goal that you had and you hit it, or what happened when you missed it? What did you do about it? Right? It's really trying to discover some experiences that they've had in their life, and see if they're just like, they're super clear about it. If they have to me, a red flag is if they have to really kind of think hard about it. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's definitely a red flag, right? Because I think people can talk the talk very well. I have a couple really good friends that interview really, really, really well, and they have jobs that they probably don't deserve based off their skill set, to be honest. But I mean, don't get me wrong, they're good humans and they're kicking butt. But we all know that we've also been burned by interviews where they interviewed very well, and then as soon as their actions came into place, we're like, holy crap, right? And I think a really big timeless truth that I've learned, that we say at Summit all the time, is you have to hire slow and fire fast, right? Which is a hard thing to do as a leader. So when it comes to, in my opinion, hiring experienced over new talent, you got to ask yourself, what was your vision of opening up a salon company to begin with? And a lot of times what I hear is, I wanted to create my own culture. And to Brian's point, it's like you can train in your culture. It's hard to break bad habits from experienced stylists, in my opinion, right? It's not that it's impossible, but you have to have really strong leadership when people have certain habits in different cultures, that you have to make sure that you have a great understanding of your vision when you're hiring experienced stylists and service providers.
Yeah. So if you guys see my eyes staring away, I'm taking notes because we are dropping some timeless truth nuggets. Love you guys. Thank you guys.
It is recorded, Jacob. So if you're sleeping right now, brother, like I mean, like,
hey, active listening is a real thing, and then otherwise I'll have to watch a full 1 hour length video to go look for these nuggets. So I'm like,
I'm gonna slide one thing in here that I love what Chad was talking about with where have you hit things that you needed to grow through what came up for me was comfort zone. When are you going to get more education? How are you dealing with learning a new skill? And that goes to how you grow within our Summit systems, right? Where it's think about just the time, like all the new styles that are always coming along, right? All the pieces, like if you can, like how, and then that causes discomfort in a lot of people to push to keep extending your comfort zone. And Jacob, you had the great piece on circle of control, like to the degree, like how you could pull that out of someone in an interview to get a sense for like how do you deal with situations where you're uncomfortable or where you want to grow or where, and it's like that's really amorphous, right? Because so many people want to get to a spot and just that's it, I made it as far as I wanted to go, I only do this kind of hair. And it's like, no, but to build your book, to build your all, you really need to have that gear of like, how have you, to what you were pointing to, it's like, how have you dealt with disappointment, a client that maybe, there's all that space that becomes the authentic human interaction part, where it's like, oh, that's when you can grow, is when you're willing to try it. And when you have a team and a culture that, helps people get through where they, are dealing with those doubts. Same with your leadership team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you guys were talking, right, a timeless truth that was triggered for me is top 20, bottom 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. We know a top 20 sees it as a career, right? But I look at it in my company, and this is what I've said. So tell me what you guys think, right? Is as long as our company is never bottom 80 heavy, right? And we're more top 20 than bottom 80, but no company of any scale is made up of only top 20 people. Therefore, it's almost impossible to hire 100% career-minded people. So then, right, where is that? Where do you guys coach to that? Like, how do you help yourselves or your as you coach? Like, hey, if you find someone that interviews well and is checking the boxes, but is aligning that they're currently in a season of job, because hey, like the truth is, right, there's a lot of companies out there that are set up to just be a job, to give you a paycheck.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't know any different. So then it's, hey, I see the potential in you that within our organization, if you're willing to grow, if you're willing to do hard things, if you're willing to be uncomfortable, we can transition you into a career mindset if that's something you're interested, right? But then the question is, can we take somebody that sees it as a hobby? And for me, I find that the hardest, because if someone sees it as a hobby, they're like, I can only work 2 days. I can only do mornings. I they have all these things like, I'm like, thank you, but no, thank you. For me. But then again,
they're buying a lot of product at a discount.
Yeah. But then again, it's like, right, we're at a time where I think, Summit, timeless truth, be flexible scheduling, flexible this, flexible that. Gen or what's the now Alpha or whoever, they want to work 26 hours full time.
Yep.
Right. So do I stay flexible as an owner, as an organization, and say, okay, I'll give you 26 hours, or no, like we need 36, or else, I need to go hire double the people because
you could just full stop on I need 36. This blows me away that people can work 32 hours and make this much, right? Like talk about career, like they want to work 26 hours and be, like that all those lines, how they move depending on career, that if you put in these longer days, if you're career minded and you can only do 3 days, what does that look like? That idea of efficiently using all the facets you have for your average ticket and stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool that you can work 4 days a week as full time in most of the Summit world.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of is the triple win. Where does that fall in? If you find somebody that's that wants 26 hours and they only can work from 9 to 2 or whatever their stipulation is. What about the triple win? Where's the triple win at when you're interviewing them? Is that because that's always in my mind when I'm doing an interview is like triple
That's
win.
good.
If I bring this person on, okay, maybe they are in that hobby level or job level mindset, but am I able to grow them, going back to those non-negotiables and plus the triple win, keeping those in the back of my mind as I'm interviewing, can I see a vision of them growing into a career? And this makes me think of one of my barbers. She middle, she's 57 years old. She came to me 5 years ago and she's like, I only can work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm a personal trainer. I do this. I only can work from this time, this time. She's a level 5 right now, 4 years later. And we sat down yesterday in her PDM. I'm like, what can I do to help you? And she goes, how do I get to the next level? I want to hit the next level. So we broke it down step by step, her daily customer count, average service ticket, broke it down completely. And I have firm belief in the next few months, she's going to have a level jump. And, she's going to be, she's 57 years old. She came to me, I'm stuck in this. I only want to do this because bypass time throughout the day, throughout my week. And now she's like total career mindset. So it's really what they want at the end of the day.
And
Yeah.
Richard, I think I was just going to say, you're pointing to those intangibles of relationships, the coaching, mentoring sphere, that's just it. Like bending the rules without breaking the law. Like there are no right answers. What's right is like being present, leading with the heart, like seeing, like, are you on, like, I think these core questions are so great to hear. Like, what are the ones that kind of like, where will the gears turn? But you have to, that person has to be on that level too. And if they can't speak from the heart, if they're doing the canned responses, all the stuff, it's like, there's an extra gear I need to help get to their heart. And that's another thing to consider. Whereas like some people, I love the unknowns, kind of wading through it and having these conversations. But I think finding the people that are willing to be, uncomfortable, or, that they are comfortable. Like you'll see that to the degree you see it as a leader, you'll see people who are comfortable with themselves, that have a humility, and like that's such an interesting dynamic to try and pull out, I think.
Yeah, man. I think everything that I think there's nuggets from everything on that, Jacob. What I think it comes back to what Richard said is the non-negotiables. I think, again, another timeless truth that I've learned in this industry is your number one job as a leader is to protect the culture. So to your point of having bottom 80, you can have a successful salon, having career-minded stylist, having job stylist, and having hobby stylist. But to Richard's point, you've got to have some non-negotiables. So for me, when it comes to like hobby stylists that only want to work 2 days a week because maybe they are a single mom and don't have babysitting, but where's the willingness? You said this, Jacob, like, what is their willingness? And to Brian's point is like, are they willing to be a little bit uncomfortable to at least grow? Are they growing? And then the biggest non-negotiable is like, do they affect the culture? So if they're not like showing up for team meetings, or like if they can't virtual in for team meetings, if you have some non-negotiables, right, that would be the difference between having bottom 80 and top 20. Because Michael Cole says it best, right? Your top 20 is going to make 80% of your income in your salon company, right? And the 80% are only going to make 20%. But where that becomes, the emotional side of our industry is, how are they affecting the culture? Are they a good teammate? If they're there 2 days a week and they're still helping with duties and doing towels, like that's a person worth having. It goes back to your non-negotiables, right? And, focusing on that, because at the end of the day, like you said, like we're tribal by nature and people are going to have different roles. And to your point, like you're never going to have top 20 stylists as your full staff. You're absolutely correct, because eventually you're going to have a walkout and they're going to all open up salons on their own, just like you did, because you were a top 20 stylist, right?
Well, the top 20, I think it's just a never ending journey, right? Your top 20 10 years ago looks different than your top 20. Like there's always going to be that top 20 mindset. It just gets more, it's like different levels of sandpaper, right? Like as you grow that culture, it does, like the gap gets narrower, and the polish you can do and the degree that your culture gets it. And like top 20, bottom 80 was never meant to be judgmental, right? It's just a graphic way to kind of like, nobody is top 20. It's just like, these are the ways we statistically, and I like it as a way to kind of look at like, what are the top 20 things we're doing well? Like, where is the difference being made? And it's really a way to look at that and kind of continue to lift different things up. But it's cool to hear you talk about it, because it's been a timeless truth. Yeah. Back to over the top, right? Like
100%, man. And I live by it, because I think that is something that will live in our industry until the end of time. Right. And again, I think it's not a label, like you said, Brian. It's a roadmap, and it's a phase, right? Every person is going to go through different phases in their lives at different times. And one thing that we have to remember as leaders is we can no longer like blanket manage and lead people. Everyone's going to have their own destination, and it's your job not to push them to that path. It's your job to walk beside them.
Yeah, I think it's one of our coaches, Jules Molina. I've heard one of her videos where she says, if a stylist only wants to work mornings and only wants to work 26 hours, it's like, I will show her the impact and the effect of that choice. And if she's still okay with that, then I'm going to let her.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
And I think that's a valid point. Like I have a stylist on maternity leave, and she's like, can I come back 1 day a week?
Yeah.
And this is the first time in 8 years of owning my company that I've allowed anything like that. I'm like, because I've always been an all or nothing. Right. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Cool. And you know what? She has come back 1 day a week on Saturday, and she is our highest retail per guest stylist, working 1 day a week.
Yeah.
She's killing it.
Love it.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I think schedule has nothing to do with being a hobby or job stylist, in my opinion, right? So I think that's something we could definitely probably clear the air on, to your point, Jacob, 100%. Yeah.
Well, and like what I love about the profession, right? Like give yourself a raise. Like this, it's been said for like, this is one of the few jobs that you have so much control to give yourself a raise, or to adjust your, with the right leadership and the right culture, to let life play along as, like to work out solutions with your leadership team as a service provider, to like start a family, and look how you can work a way in to start generating income, because you have a good skill. Like this is a skill-based industry. And as you get better with the skill, you'll see those people that are leadership team material, that are like, you're also building that culture over time, where we all have that vision down the road, where we've got our leadership team, and that person can transition to more of a leadership role, or right. So identifying those people, and once you have them, how do you find those spaces to keep them excited and let the other people see what's possible too, right, you guys?
Yeah. So I'm going to be devil's advocate. Let's role play kind of a real world scenario. You guys cool with that? So I'm going to play devil's advocate. So we're talking about bottom 80, and like people in your salon companies are in different groups, and a stylist comes to you and says, hey, Amanda, like, I don't get it. Amanda's only 2 years in, and she's only working days and not any weekends. Why can't I do that? As a leader, how would you kind of role play that, or how would you communicate or have a conversation with that stylist that is now comparing herself, right, to another stylist that might have started at the exact same time, right? They're doing the exact same numbers, but all of a sudden, right, there's a service provider that has to, right, because of the phase of life that she's in, that she can only work days and no weekends. And she's a good fit for the culture. How would you guys coach to that?
My brain is going towards where's this question coming from? What patterns led up to this question? So I would want to find out the why behind it. Like, could it be jealousy? Could it be like, I asked for this time off and I didn't get Wednesday night off because of whatever reason, So I want to know where the question's coming from first.
Yeah. like even when I'm even saying it out loud, like my thing, like my instinct, honestly, is like my ego. Like now you don't trust my leadership. So now I'm going to be reactive with
Mm,
that question, right? During instead of being proactive, right?
Yeah.
I was, our boy Jason Culverhouse did a quick 1 hour team meeting for one of my salon companies this week, and he said one of the first things to have a really good culture is to try to have your team have this kind of non-negotiable of think first, speak second,
mm.
right? And I feel like even on the leadership part of that, like to me, like even saying it, like I'm literally role playing it, my mind was like, well, this is my company, I can do what I want. Why do you care, right?
Yeah.
So what's coming up for you, Jacob?
Yeah, I think yeah, like you're right? Like I think the natural instinct is reactive to be reactive, but um as I was saying earlier, like my own evolution of leadership and understanding just how to be flexible and evolve is yeah, kind of I like where Richard went with that. Like kind of where's your mindset behind this question? Um it's to me when I've had those scenarios. So my scenario was why do I have to do barber cuts when so and so doesn't,
Mm,
and it got taken off her list, right?
yeah.
And I literally had to sit that stylist down and I said, because that stylist has no passion behind doing men's hair. And not only has she expressed verbally the work and the redos that we've had to take, take
The
in,
actions.
the actions have shown it.
Yeah.
So in order for quality control and not force her and not give a client a bad experience, we've taken those off for her. I said, for you, I need you to trust me that I see in you the ability to do men's hair well. If you will continue to push yourself and be uncomfortable while you're learning it. I said, I know. And then I helped her, and I echoed her desire. And I was like, I know your desire is to be a colorist,
Mm,
but man, men's services are a great fill-in for when those color clients aren't booking appointments or they're not on your books.
yeah.
And now her books, she's a level 3, she's my educator. So this was early on that she was like associate or just newly graduated associate, but now she's a level 3, she's my educator. And she has a good probably 70% color business, 30% barber business. She's
Yeah.
opposite of our company is 70% barber, 30% salon, but she's built her business and how she wanted to build it, and we coached her to it. So I think with the time off, I think it's that case. It's like, hey, are you this is what it would look like. Your 2 days would need to be now $600 a day versus, let's say, 300 over 5 days, or whatever. If you want to be trending those goals, if you're still level driven. Or are you okay working those 2 days? And on average, what 2 days do you want to work? I'd probably look back at her days that she wants to work. And if it's like a Monday and Tuesday, I'm like, all right, let's see the revenue you generate on Mondays and Tuesdays. Are you okay with that paycheck?
Yep. I love that.
I think one of the things I see is just like there's no easy answers here, right? Like
Yeah.
to the degree that you get the skills and you build up your skill set as a leader over time. And the other thing that was coming up for me was your core values as a salon company.
Yeah.
What, like you, as to the degree that people know the core values of what we're looking to grow people for a living, what is that bringing into what someone might want with their life, how you work with other people? That's what we've been able to do for this person. What do you want? It's not just this black and white of like we all have these exact same things or I deserve
Yep.
this. It's like to get into the really to be able to process that all in your head. I mean, that's what I like about Summit is we're around a lot of people that are processing these things all the time. So like the treadmill is
Yeah.
always moving pretty quick and there's like a space to get a pretty close story, but that's only going to get you a certain distance because all these cultures are custom and you have leadership teams and you have agreements and you have, I like the career, there are the non-negotiables, right? Like, so it's
Yep.
like, how do you put it in the AI bingo spinner and say, which of these, you know?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing what I'm taking away from that both Richard and Jacob both hit on, I love what you guys are saying, but I think I would just like ending that role play on to Brian's point. There's what I heard from Jacob is, right, the flexibility, tell me why. So again, stop being reactive as a leader and start being proactive and start asking questions, because at the end of the day, our brains are wired to think about it in a negative way, period, right? Our ego gets in the way of that hard conversation. So two, I love what you said too, is like, as a leader, do they trust you? Right, to have this conversation, right? And then I think just to wrap a bow on it, it's the gratitude. For me, when I first started coaching, like I would be reactive, like, like, what, I'm doing literally everything for you. Why aren't you trusting me during this, in this situation? But really, it's actually like thanking them, like, hey, thanks for, like, this was a hard conversation for you to bring up to me. First, like, thank you for letting me know how you're feeling. Because how many times as salon owners have people ghosted us and left our company, and we didn't know why at the time, but then find out that we could have freaking fixed it or solved that problem for them if they would actually just approached us and came to us. Would you guys agree?
Agree.
Right? And I know, for me, that was a perfect example. Like, I bring up that scenario because it happens all the time because people are in different phases in life. And same with my situation was a level 3 stylist. Just did not have, she was a single mom, did not have care during the weekends, and she didn't quite earn the right for weekends off. And there was another 3 that says, hey, if she's getting weekends off, I want weekends off. And, at first, I'm going to be totally transparent. I was like, cool, like, I want to be flexible. I get that. And so we started giving her her weekends off, but she wasn't prepared for it. Like, the first stylist was really prepared for it. She thought it through because it's like, I'm going to take more clients. I'm going to let my clients know that I can't do weekends. So I'm going to really prepare them and, customize their schedule around my schedule. And this one girl was more reactive. Like, I just want what she wants. And honestly, within 3 months, she was losing like $1,000 every paycheck because she was taking her weekends off. And I let that happen, and she almost quit because I didn't have that hard conversation of like you said, the impact. Like, I didn't kind of walk her through, like, you make, like, your biggest days are Fridays and Saturdays, and you could lose. It was literally almost $1,000. She was doing like almost $750 each day in service sales, and she literally just cut it off because another stylist, she just wanted her weekends off. And she almost quit on me. So that, I always bring that up, is to Richard's point, it's like, you got to start asking questions, like, because your stylist phase in life might be different than your phase in life. And to Jacob's point, you have to show that impact of that decision. Sometimes they just don't know, and that's our job of leaders, that they do trust us and we can walk them through that impact.
Yeah. So that made me think about a conversation we had to have at our staff meeting this week, and it was time request off. So we, in our company, we approve 99.9 time request forms. Like, right, you submit them, but 99.9 we're approving. Well, in doing so, we approved 3 people off this weekend. And so we're heavily short-staffed for this coming Saturday. And then we looked, people were putting in time request off for into November, December. And I'm like, man, that's like, and right, old school here. It's like, man, that's prime time. That's from November 1 to December 25. That's like it should be blackout dates, in my opinion. Right.
Or like
no time requests allowed or approved. But in today's society and culture, we can't rule like that, right? And so what I did was I just brought awareness, and it was interesting because I was kind of boiling the night before about it, like seeing all the time request forms off. Because I've got a couple people taking like almost 8 to 10 days off through November. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, but I woke up in the morning, like 6 a.m. before the meeting, and I just like, okay, state of mind, reframe my mindset on this. And I'm going to show them the impact of approving and staying this open. And I said to them, I was like, this is a scenario that proves we need to hire more people.
I love that.
And what I saw the reaction in their faces, they didn't like that.
Yep.
But I was like, if y'all want me to stay flexible, and to Richard's point, the triple win, we have to keep the company in mind, right? Because selfishly and naturally, they just want their time off. They're not thinking, how does this affect the top line and bottom line of the company for the month or for the week in sales?
And
so
that doesn't
then
make them bad people, right? That's just human nature again. We are wired that way to be selfish, to protect ourselves, right?
So because I allowed myself to like reframe, I said, we'll continue and we're not taking anybody's freedom away. Cause I was like, if anyone, you guys know, I love me some life work balance. I want to be in Colorado for a week at a time. So I was like, I want y'all to have that experience. I'm glad you can have that experience by working here. But at the same time, know that the side effect is that I then need to hire more people. And then you guys see what happens when we are a little heavier on the hiring is you get one haircut, you get one haircut. You get one client, she gets one client. And they all kind of nodded because they've seen that when we've gone, the company's happening. You go in surges of hiring. And I said, that's the option I have to take in consideration as the owner and leader of this, because I can't have a Saturday with 3 people out.
Yeah.
I said, secondary would be y'all calls me or how did I say it to him? I said, or we have to put a limit on how many time request forms off we can allow per day. And it may be 2. So and it's going to be first come, first serve. So that third one that comes in, it's going to get denied. I was like, and then I said to them, do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
And some said yes, they nodded, and a few said no, right? Because once again, no one wants to get taken away of freedom that has been given.
Right.
But that's like reality. That's part of this timeless truth of conversation and effect of like culture, leadership, like, and then putting them back in there. That's been my transition like these last year or two, is like just making some of these hard decisions, but putting it either in my leadership or in my company's entirety and having an open discussion, just see this has an effect on everyone. So it's almost like the triple win. There's the triple effect.
A triple effect, a trickle down effect, right? Because I'll be devil's advocate, and it's not even devil's advocate. It's just honestly, like, I think Heather Badby said at one time that I really love. It's, when it comes to, and I'm putting it in, this might not be the same scenario, but what triggered me in that conversation, Jake, which was great with the communication, but Heather Bagby does say this as a leader, like, and I'm not saying it's a problem, but she says, like, your business, like, issues aren't your team's issues.
I was just going to say that.
Right. And, and that is so tough to balance. And I don't think, and I'm just using it as an example, but that's just what triggered me, Jacob, because it's like, it's true. Like you said, like, well, we have to hire more, because that's why I tell people, like, especially tell me you guys do not get where it's like, why are you hiring more people? Like, I'm not even booked enough. And it's like, well, the reality is, like, I like to be flexible. And when I have 4 people that want, December 26th through January 1st off, right? Is that something that as a team we close down? Is it something that we have a minimum and first come, first serve? There's so many, to even Brian's point, there's no right or wrong answer. It goes back to your culture and how close, to Richard's point, can we get to the triple win? Richard, what's coming up for you? Like that, that's what triggered me.
Like, whenever a topic like that comes up for me, I'm like, my number one thing is I don't want to bring my business's issues to you guys.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. We have 2 people working this Saturday. We normally have 6 or whatever, right? So we have 2 options. I can bring on more people so we can stay flexible, kind of what we've been talking about, or we can make up a rule and saying no more than X amount of people can take the same days off.
Yeah.
And then I just see a need for systems of what's the earliest you can request that time off. So those of us who are living flexibly and someone's coming into town for the family that we haven't seen and we didn't know till a month out, versus someone who's so good at planning a year out that's always getting that time off, where not all of us are wired that way, or we don't know when our kids' breaks are, or we don't know that a family member is sick and we need, so it's like the whole idea of, having the system, bending the rules without breaking the law, but then also talking about it authentically with your trust that you've built and your culture to kind of get to the bottom of that right answer. That isn't, at the end of the day, you're still going to have friction, but you got to find ways to paint the pictures as a leader
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're just going to have to make hard decisions. There's not going to be a right or wrong. You're just as a leader going to have to make hard decisions. And and I think when it comes to hard decisions, they don't get easier to do. You just get better at doing them, right?
Yeah.
Hard decisions aren't, something that become easier. You just get better at doing them. And to Jacob's point, like bringing it to the team instead of you just like coming into a team meeting, it's like, here's the rule. It's first come, first serve. There's only three. There's only this. You're opening the communication, which I think is the right way. So because like in this conversation, you could be open up to other ideas that maybe you didn't even come to mind, that then a lot more people are on board, right?
Yeah.
We're never going to please 100% of people. I actually think if you are pleasing 100% of your staff, you're actually doing something wrong. You're more their friend than their leader, right?
And I think we see that as coaches.
Yeah.
And then you see the effect in the numbers.
Yep.
You see the
100%.
effect in the lack of profit and the lack of financial,
Yep.
like lack of revenue.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. And it's like then we just got to plan for it, because as a leader, it's your job to look to the future, and you just got to plan ahead of that, right?
Yeah.
I had a salon that, I mean, honestly, even as a coach, I had a kind of a not necessarily a weak moment, but a road blocking moment where this salon owner, when approached me, is like, I think we should close from December 25th up until January 1st. And I was like, one, that's insane. That's going to be the busiest. That truly is one of the busiest weeks. It's actually after Christmas. You'll see the trend. And I was like, I think you're going to lose a buttload of money, and I don't think you should do that. And honestly, she went against my coaching, did it. Her team, it killed it. They are so busy before, because now that first year was kind of like a trial period, but now the culture and her demographic understand, and they crush it. They're November, December, they just stack them. They just work more hours in November, December for them, and their numbers were never phased. So, I think even as coaches, we can make mistakes or get in our way. And she made a hard decision, and it's not been a bad situation for her. It's been great.
I was just gonna say, like, tell me more about that is a phrase I've always liked. Like when you're dealing with tell me more about that. And I have seen more things that say, so that our family can spend more time with their loved ones, we will be closed during this time. Like I think we all get it.
Yep.
Like that idea that you're gonna lean into that culture. And I love that they trained their, like, well, I got to get in early, because they're not, like, that's a fairly easy, because a lot of us maybe have that time off. I also think I want to talk a little bit about like what products we're talking about, all this vague stuff where we're sharing good judgment comes from experience, but it's like we've created, Glenn Baker has the leadership program, Heather Bagby has mindful leadership. Like we do have some things to plug into that get your mind turning, as well as coach relationships. But there's like, before we did, like, what's your favorite product for these? So at some point, as we wrap it up, just kind of what tools, leadership in action, I think is Glenn's on 365. But just kind of like some of those places where we've put some of those timeless truths that are accessible to people.
Yeah. I have two final thoughts on this topic. So I think, because I think this really, for owners that are and leaders that are struggling with the flexibility, right? Because that's a reality, and struggling with being reactive. The positive side of building flexibility into our cultures is that in return, you will get a portion of your staff that will equally be flexible with you. And so what that looks like for me in my company, right? I had a stylist quit on a Sunday night and was like, effective tonight, I won't be there for my shift tomorrow. All right. We sent it in the group chat. I had a stylist who we've been very flexible with, that, husband's in the Army, basically single parenting it with help of mom. Hey, I need a split shift here. Or, hey, I can't work anything after 4 o'clock because I need to go pick up my kids, but I'll work, instead of an 8 to 2, I'll work 8 to 3 or 8 to 3:30. And we're like, cool. Yes. She texts me directly and says, hey, I will pick up all of Lily's shifts if I need to this week.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Boom.
Bro, what? And I was like, okay, let me take a look at the books. And I was like, yeah, if you're okay with that, I'd be really thankful. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. That was one, right? And recent. We had a situation where we were going to have only one person closing on Saturday, and a non-negotiable is we never have only one person closing. So we asked our mom that's on maternity leave that works till only on Saturdays and typically only till 5. I said, hey, can you stay that extra couple hours so that so-and-so is not there by themselves? Yeah, sure. Let me just ask my mom, watch the baby a little longer. Yep, I can be there. Right. This is someone who we've been super flexible with on, being cool with her working 1 day a week. And this kind of got triggered as we've talked about this up to this point, where it's like, it doesn't have to feel one-sided. Like we, the owners or the leaders, are just bending over and giving it all. But at the end of the day, the triple win does come back and the company wins. And in this case, I'm sharing stories of how stylists have won by having flexibility and being a 99.9 approval rate. And now the company's reaping the reward of people willing to pick up lacking shifts or extending their shifts, or, so on and so on. And so I just want to encourage that for those owners that it's against the grain for them to be this flexible or even think about transitioning into level of flexibility. So that was that thought there.
And I want to end it to Jacob's point, I'm going to be on the other end of that. For the owners that are almost too flexible, where it is affecting their business, just know that there is a balance, but it is going to come down to your culture, right? And some of your non-negotiables. And to Richard's point, that triple win, right? It's there. And then sometimes you are going to have to make hard decisions. That's best for everybody. Maybe not just for that one individual, but it is going to come down to a buildup of trust and rapport when you do make those hard decisions, right? I think Glenn Baker says it all the time. Like for the salons that are giving too much flexibility, and then your team's complaining that they're not making any money because they don't understand the repercussions of their actions. Sometimes, as Glenn says it way better, and I think it is a timeless truth, when you got to make plenty deposits of gratitude and praise. So when you go to make a withdrawal, right, it doesn't hurt as much, right? So I think, Jacob, that I think, to me, like, that's where you're at, where you've made plenty of deposits into your team and your culture, and when you did have to make a kind of a withdrawal on kind of the flexibility of Saturday, your team didn't just like throw up their arms like, this is BS. I'm in and out of here. I'm checking on a new job, right? There was plenty of more deposits in there than there was that one withdrawal. So
a great timeless truth for sure.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to wrap a couple things around. I think you guys are talking about like that comfort zone for leaders, right? Where it's like we're talking about all these areas where we're having to learn a new thing, we're having to assess it in real time. And I was just looking at where do people go? We have that discovery call, but I just went to SummitSalon.com and went to calendar, because I hadn't looked at that for a while. So I'm like even for me, it's like, what's the new class? SummitSalon.com, calendar. I saw transformational leadership. I see classes, and it's like, as leaders, looking outside for that inspiration, talking to your distributor, seeing, that's what I love. Like, people are seekers, right? Like, to the degree that we have so many pieces on our 365, and where it's like, as you're looking for that learning and looking to, just how this us talking fires up all this stuff. I have a similar feeling when I'm reading something about graphics or a new way to use something, right? Like, we get used to practicing, learning new things and seeing new ideas. And I think Summit has a ton of those resources out there. And it's just that's a good first step, is just look for some of our, resources to get your mind in these zones. And then that discovery call to leverage all of your insights, how many different, not only seeing it all, help people overcome it all.
For me, it's like I said, I feel like the best resource is continue to watch the Timeless Truth podcast. That's going to be it for me, right? You got to comment, share, keep listening to it, because all these nuggets, man, that's where it's going to come at. But I don't know if we talked about it on the last podcast, but I think when we're talking about, leadership, but also coming down to recruiting, I think, again, it's, hire slow and fire fast, but you have to invest in people as much as you invest in yourself. And I love that Over the Top book. It really gives a lot of clarity on this industry, what you're going to see in a salon company and a salon culture. And, the second one definitely would be the legacy leadership. Glenn has just decades of experience in leadership from ups and downs, and really keeps it real. And you should be sharpening not only your skills behind the chair, but in your leadership ability. And that's why people are coming to you, that are trusting you with their careers, is you have to invest in yourself. So those would be my two. Like the Over the Top book is always been a game changer. As somebody that's never worked behind the chair, it brought so much clarity into my leadership and how people react and how people think in this industry. And it's been great. So,
yeah. And there's the new leadership series with Derek Reynolds as well, that starts this month, I believe, and it's a 12-month series that you can subscribe for. And I know I've got myself and my leadership team subscribed for it as well, and that's what I'm doing, because I heard Simon Sinek state that he's like, most organizations will have an operations manual, right? They'll have an onboarding manual. He's like, but then I start talking to leadership teams, and I'm like, was there a leadership manual?
Mm.
And there's often not. He's like, and he's talking like big organizations. That's like, no, I was just really good at my job.
Yep.
And I got made a manager, I got made a director, I got made a VP, I got made a, whatever. And that's, so I started reflecting that thought in my organization. It's like, yeah, that's been my case too, right? It's like, hey, you're consistent and you're really good at what you do. Like, how about you become a leader?
Yes.
And so my 2026 goal is to build in a leadership manual, right? Like, hey, are you interested? And almost like the associate program, right? But it's going to be a leadership structured 4-month program, 6-month program with some of our summit resources, some of the some book recommendations, or like not even recommendations, but like, hey, you need to read these books that have formed my mindset and also caused me to lead this way, and so
that's a great one.
So I'm excited about that project for the context of leadership.
And I'm going to throw one thing in there because it's a great resource. I put in the myportal.summitsalon.com link on here because all roads lead to summitsalon.com. But if you click on Summit Online, that's where Derek's program is living. That's where, legacy leadership in action, so like it's a free account where you just make it. And these are all available right through myportal.summitsalon.com. So like just make a free account and you'll see easy, there when you need it.
Yeah. There when you need it on your own time, right?
Yeah.
Richard, what's coming up for you? What's a great summit resource?
Over the Top. I can't give that book enough credit. It's a timeless truth.
Yeah.
That really changed perspective. I'm visiting with Derek Reynolds with the leadership thing, and I did I think it was the first one that he's offering before all of it. Anyway, it was incredible. Well worth the time for that leadership.
Heck yeah.
And I'll take on to Over the Top too, because I just finished a 6th edition, right? Like we just updated that again, and we're getting in some new planners. We've again reinvited, so it's like the Over the Top and the Summit Career Path Planner are in sync, so that there's they just continue to grow with what people are needing to track and what people are needing to do to grow their business. Whereas like a lot of Over the Top has kind of stayed the same. The back end where we go into the evolving and the pieces you can do to grow your business, it's once again been tweaked for all the different ways people have to grow their business now. So I threw the Over the Top link in there too. But if you still have a blue or a purple version, you want to consider like the 6th version, because it like you said, it's a timeless truths tome, right? Like it's totally so much good for inspiration to go to back and back again.
How many years has from when it got created?
2011, I think, is when we first published it. And then, I think we're probably 70,000 have been printed throughout the years here. So
wow.
So coming up on 25 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We should have done a fancy sticker on there. I'll have to do that for the special commemorative edition.
25th anniversary.
That'd be sick. See if we
Nice.
get it signed by Mary, you, and
Yeah, I
Michael.
want a gold foil
Yeah,
cover.
that'd be
There's only so
awesome.
many available.
That would be awesome. Well, I think I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. It would mean a lot to us if you would like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, comment, share, anything that you'd love us to talk about or any takeaway from this. But we really challenge you to, again, find your non-negotiables. Look at, that not every situation is going to be black and white. And I think culture at the end of the thing will take. At Summit, I know a lot of times they think that it's sales over culture, but at the end of the day, we take culture over sales as a philosophy at Summit and in this podcast today. So we hope you enjoyed. Thank you for your time.